Hello and welcome to Studio Wesley Cafe. I'm Sydney Buchanan and I'm your host for this wonderful show. It's season 2. I've been sitting down with some interns, and then our next few episodes, some staff members, some interns, and asking two main questions. What types of art have you been engaging with most recently? And what specific art piece or body of art has been impactful to you so far this year? And these conversations have been amazing. When I was thinking about these episodes, I was really thinking about, one, the accessibility of art, like what art is accessible to us and what art, as people who maybe aren't artists or people who maybe aren't studying art or are particularly invested in art, like how are we engaging with it in our day-to-day, because it's everywhere and it's in all of us. And so I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about just wanting the prompts to be almost as broad as possible to kind of like see what things we might talk about that I wouldn't even think of. The first episode, I got to sit down with Sam. We talked about X-Men 97, that TV show. In the second episode, I got to sit down with Tess. We had this amazing conversation about yoga as an art form. And so I've been surprised and continue to be surprised by the different ways that we experience art, and it's opening my mind. So today I sat down with Grace Rogers, who is my friend and my roommate, actually, and also a fellow Studio Wesley staff member. And I asked Grace these questions. I think you're going to love the conversation. We cover topics from, fashion as an art form to audiobooks and the accessibility of audiobooks for neurodivergent people and how that helps us experience art and makes it more accessible to more people. And yes, I love Grace. We talk about so many amazing things. So I'm going to go ahead and let the interview speak for itself. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. Hi, Grace.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Studio Wesley Cafe.
First, thank you for having me.
Of course, I always love having you. And it's funny because, we're roommates, but you're actually in Florida right now.
Yeah, well, and I was supposed to be in the same house as you right now. But the restaurant I used to work at desperately needed another bartender. So I stayed an extra day.
Do you have fun doing that? Like, do you have fun working there now that you're not like required to work there?
Yeah, it's very different. So Neil, who folks are also likely familiar with, while we're dating, it's been like 4.5 years, so it feels
you're like, yeah.
But yeah, so my partner Neil also works there, and I got Neil the job about 2 years ago, and I trained them. But then it was really funny last night because the cocktail menu's new. It's not my cocktail menu anymore, or it's not one that I was familiar with, and I've been out of it for like a year now. And so it seems like Neil was also training me last night, so it was just a kind of funny like reversal. And I got back into it and it was fine, but it was interesting. It was still a stressful environment, but I didn't feel as stressed, and I think I was nicer to everybody. So I guess it is better to do that after like not being there for a while.
Yeah. There's something about knowing that like you're doing a favor that it's like, I feel like would take the stress off a little.
And our owner, Enza, she got me, there's this one dish that I love, but I don't order it because it has lobster in it. And so that's one of my, like, I'm not going to order like a lobster or a crab something.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one ethical thing I can like firmly commit to. Like, vegan, it's hard to do these other things, but like that is a feasible thing for me. So I don't order lobster. But as a thank you, Enza made me this one lobster dish that I just love. I was like, oh my So it was like exhilarating. Um, so it's nice to be back like in my home space of that job, but also like the fact that it was a favor has some other benefits.
Yeah. Well, how has your trip's been good overall?
hmm
Have you been there again? I should know. I live with you.
I've been there. Oh, God, I don't even know. Like 2 weeks ish,
Nice.
and some change.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you to come back, selfishly.
I miss it up there.
Yeah.
That's my whole plan because I have to come back at the end of the month because Neil is bartending for some other friends at the end of the month. And my whole plan was that I was going to drive back to Atlanta as soon as possible so I can actually spend like quality time there before I have to come back here. And I miss you guys.
Yeah.
But
You know, we're here. We're waiting. Atlanta and me in Atlanta.
okay, you have like the welcome up and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um. Okay. Well, let's get into it. So, yes, the idea with this portion, season 2 of Studio Wesley Cafe, is that we're talking about more broadly the kinds of art that we've been like engaging with this year, and like why certain art forms are more accessible to us, why it's more practical to us as everyday people who maybe aren't studying art or who aren't particularly professionally invested in art. What does art look like for the normies, you know what I mean, like us people that have jobs and are in school and that kind of stuff. So, my first question for you today is, what types of art have you been engaging with the most recently? It could be any medium of art. What ways do you think you're engaging with art the most in your day to day?
So in my day to day and like my participation in it, I think just like clothes and like fashion. Um, because I like that's my one like not my one, but that's my most immediate creative element these days. I used to do a bunch of makeup and it was so beautiful and I had like all these colors and so that was like my main engagement with art. But now it's definitely like clothes and I love dressing business professional. I don't know what it is and everybody else that I'm around kind of hates it. Like they hate having to dress that way and I'm like I love it. So like having that kind of like play around, dress up. I feel like the main character. Um,
Yeah.
bright colors, and I loved it. Like it's just fun to play around with that. But when I'm engaging in other people's media, um, I've been really into audiobooks. I
Mm.
never Audible or like one of the extra platforms. But then Spotify got audiobooks. And so I've been listening to a lot of stuff on there. One, like I need audiobooks for school. I desperately need the audiobook accommodation. And they don't always have it. But some of the like regular fun books that I've been interested in, I found out are audiobook. So that's been fun.
Hmm.
It's been a it's been a good time in music for the girlies and the gays. So
Yeah. I love these two answers. I love so much because they're unique. Like I've talked in the last 2 episodes a lot about music, and I
mhm.
think music is like an incredibly accessible art form that we all engage with every day. I love these two answers though, clothing and then talking about audiobooks, because first of all, I love fashion. I feel like it's a very queer, I mean, everyone loves fashion, but it's
Mhm.
Pride Month, you know what I'm saying? And I'm
Yeah.
thinking a lot about the queer experience of fashion and like self-expression, and how like it's such an important part of queer culture, like the art of outfits, and not only putting together an outfit and styling yourself and your hair,
Mhm.
makeup and that, but also like making up stuff too. Like, I don't know if that's something like you're into, but I've always loved, I'm not professional sew or anything. I know a few stitches. I have a lot of safety pins and scissors. And I've, ever since I was like a kid, me and, my besties would be cutting up our clothes, putting them back together, like making different stuff. And that is such I feel like a really important art form that it like both has to do with like your experience as like an individual, but it also can be very connective and like you can really identify people who you have stuff in common with or identify people that you have shared culture with based on
Yeah.
clothing. Is that like your experience with
It's
fashion?
so much my experience, and like sometimes in a fun way and sometimes in a negative way. Um, so like I love Lily Pulitzer. I love Lily Pulitzer. And if you're not familiar with that brand, one, she's related to the Pulitzer of like the Pulitzer Prize, which I just learned recently. Um, but
I didn't know.
it's bright, like soccer mom clothes. Like it's giving WASP. It's giving like upper middle class. It's giving portions of culture that I often am not part of, and
Mhm.
sometimes I'm not. And so when I dress like that, I love it. They're bright clothes. They're so comfy. Like I love that style. But also, I am so glad that I have orange in my hair now, so that people still know that I'm like cool
Yeah.
and that I'm like safe space. Um, because like, and you see, like sometimes I walk out the house, and it's like she is looking queer and looking phenomenal and looking like I'm pulling out the cultural identifiers, if you will. Um, but then other times I walk out, especially if you see me like going to prison Sunday morning. Um, I'm a chaplain in a prison, if anybody did not know that. But when I'm rolling up to the prison Sunday morning in these like bright floral, like, so it's fun and I love the cultural identifiers sometimes, but then it's also really worrisome because and this goes with a lot of my life, but I find myself like bouncing between these two spaces. And so like I'm glad when I'm glad to have my hair now and my tattoos to kind of like merge the two even when I'm leaning super far into one side, if that makes sense. And it shouldn't have, like I shouldn't have to worry about that, but then like I'll be out in public and if I'm looking more straight, if I'm looking less queer, I'm like, oh no, like it's gonna like I don't, which is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's so true. It is it kind of is like a type of I mean, and I don't know if it's appropriate to use this term because it's specifically with like used for like like dialects and stuff, like code switching. But it kind of feels like that at times, like growing up, you're taught a very specific way that you're supposed to dress and present. I think, and it obviously is tied very closely to like the gender binary and what's appropriate and what's professional. And then it's like, you learn yourself and your interests and what makes you feel confident, what makes you feel alive, and what makes you feel vibrant and stuff. And sometimes that contradicts what you're taught is the right professional thing. And so then it's like you have to learn how to like bounce back and forth. Um, and that can be hard. And I feel like I did that for a while. I think that when I was actively working in churches, especially, I felt
Mhm.
myself doing that, even involuntarily, like when I would go to get dressed to like go lead worship somewhere, I would put on a particular outfit because I'm like, well, this makes me look more like put together, like whatever that means. And
Yeah.
then it's like I find myself now, like, I don't even really want to put myself in environments where I can't express myself the way I want to which isn't always practical because again, like it's very widely accepted, like these kind of like norms of like how we should dress, how we should express ourselves. Um, but I also am like, I don't know. It's a very hard thing to balance. And honestly, I feel like we don't talk enough about it. We don't talk enough about that distressing feeling or even the condescension that you'll get. Like I experience all the time like getting kind of like condescending comments on my appearance where it's like, I'm a barista and so it's men. Usually it's like white men and I'm kind of in an area where there's a lot of kind of like middle class, like kind of normies, no offense to the normies, but normies. And they'll come in and they'll kind of make a comment about my appearance. And it always is kind of in like I think maybe they're trying to be affirming, but when it kind of comes across as is like, oh, like I see you trying to be so edgy and cool, or like I see you trying to be so like, you know, oh, your hair purple, or you know what I mean? Like just like these comments that are like, you're not seeing that this is a genuine expression of myself. Like I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm not trying to be whatever. Like this is me expressing myself genuinely. So why are you looking at me like that? Why are you looking at me like I have a clown nose on? Like, so yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like so much deeper than just like clothes. It like intersects with so many different experiences of like being a queer person and being a queer person in the church specifically.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because do I want to, for me, I almost lean the opposite way. I'm like, do I look queer enough in this church space right now that people know, like, it's okay, that, like, I'm okay, come to me. One, that I'm, like, part of it, but also, like, like, I'm okay. And you can come, like, I'm safe for you if you need that. But then also, like, I wanna dress with the pretty florals and, like, again, it's the fun thing of like rolling up in like a tank top, like beautiful, flowy Lily Pulitzer dress, tattoos, hair, piercing, which like the nose piercing, I don't have a septum, so it's less of an identifier. but like things like that. And then it's like if I'm in a queer space, it's like, oh, do I look queer enough? Or do I like, I don't know if you have the moment where you're like, oh, what should I wear today? And that one outfit is calling out to you, but you're like, but that's not enough for this space. So I need to wear this.
Yeah.
Just wear what you want. Just wear whatever you want.
Yeah. I agree. I would love for us to get to the point where we can all wear whatever we want, and where style isn't like viewed as like this is professional, this is unprofessional, and it's not. This is appropriate, and this is like where we can just like, yeah, just express ourselves and wear our art, wear our artistry. I think that's so cool. And then also, I want to continue on to our next question, but I also want to go ahead and add here that I love you bringing up audiobooks because I also, as a fellow ADHDer, have been so into audiobooks lately. Like it's how I've been like reading, like, and I wish I think all the time about how badly I wish I had this accommodation as a kid through college, because when I was in college there were even less audiobooks. Like it was so hard to get your hands on an audiobook. And there were so many times when I was like, and there were certain features on my laptop where I could select and have my computer read it to me or whatever. But I thought all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like if I could just have this read out loud to me, I could get through this so much faster. I could absorb it so much better. I could take notes while I'm listening, like, and so anyways, yeah, I'm like, I also have been really into audiobooks. What specific audiobooks have you listened to recently? And then I'll continue on to our next question.
So I don't like the term guilty pleasure because I'm like, let's just enjoy what we enjoy. And like, you don't have to explain. Like some things you do need to explain. But like, I say that to say, I just finished up Jill Duggar's book. Jill
Yeah.
Dillard. Her. It
Of
was
the
really
Duggars, like the Duggars.
like the Duggars. It was a good book. Like I really enjoyed it. And like my undergrad being in like the sociology, religion, anthropology space, I was able to kind of like unpack parts of it. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Right now, I'm reading Paige Layle's "But Everyone Feels This Way," which is really good, and she narrates it herself. That's what I love is when somebody is narrating their own book. So like I tried to read Britney Spears' book, but she's not narrating it.
Mm.
And so it's hard to like I don't hear her voice, and I feel like that her specifically like I need to hear her voice for that. But like Jill narrated her book, Paige narrates her book. So like that's what I've really been interested in. I rolled out some Junie B. Jones the other day. If you look, okay, because reread Junie B. Jones now, she's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
I like she. Oh my god, I can't, reread Junie B. Jones.
That's so fun. I've never even considered the idea of like rereading books from childhood like that.
Mm-hmm. And she's the one where I'm like, no matter when I pick up Junie B. Jones, I will be like laughing so hard I either like pee myself or I start crying. As an adult.
That's so fun. That's so fun. I love that.
So I've
And
been doing
I'm like very pro that with films, like
mhm,
cartoons, rewatching old. I love. Oh my goodness! Just the other day, I was watching Hercules. I rewatched Encanto. Like I love watching cartoons and stuff.
mhm.
But I never considered that with other kinds of media. I don't think with like books and stuff.
It's
That's
something about the nostalgia, but then also like you get to appreciate it from a different mindset now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fun.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
So I guess on that same wavelength, what specific art pieces slash like bodies of art have been impactful to you this year? Is there a specific movie, specific um, album? Because you said queer music is popping off. That's true. I think particularly lesbian pop right now is doing something crazy. They're like having a little renaissance, and I love that. But yeah, what's a specific thing that's been speaking to you this year?
So once again, I can't just give like one answer. So I'm gonna give little categories. Um I've really Renee Rapp is like in my like we have like a very similar vocal range.
Mm.
So I've been like blasting her in the car. Um Chapel Roan, of course, we love. Um Renee Rapp is she's just so good with like the ballads,
Mm.
and like it's just beautiful. But there's that. I have been really into embroidery. So like I that's been something that like in the past like couple months has just been like so centering for me. It makes me think about all the folks who are like in class with their like crochet blankets and they've made this like giant blanket.
Mhm.
But yeah, I got a jean jacket and I'm like, this is gonna be my jean. One, I feel like a whole new person. I have a jean jacket now. Um, I roll up to wherever I am. I'm like,
Yeah, jean jacket. Yeah,
but
that's
I
me. That's
started.
literally me.
So I put like a bouquet of flowers on like the inside of one side. I have like lavender on this side. I'm like putting little like flags across the bottom. I want to do like just a bunch of like little thingies and like putting like little like buttons and pins on it. So that has been the most immediate thing for me. But then also at the Candler School of Theology and Emory University, um, well, Candler, that's within that place. There's a museum and it's beautiful. And it's because it's Emory, they have the resources to have like this just wild, wildly like stocked museum. Uh,
Mhm.
and it's free to students. So that's been something that has just been really meaningful to like walk around. And they have like, well, they have all sorts of like regions and time periods. So you get to go through like the ancient Americas and you come around and they have like, um, I love the indigenous like North American pieces. And you keep going and they have like Greek and Roman little, like the cameo things, but they're so tiny. They have to pull out magnifying glasses and you like look through it. Um, and then you keep going and they have these like full like statues. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's a museum, you know, like you know what you're getting into when you go to a museum, but it's just so beautiful. And they have the short story of it is that in 1999 some Emory folks found a mummy and no, there's no way to tell the short story. 1999, Emory researchers, Niagara Falls, found a mummy, or they like purchased a mummy from someone, and they did more research, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Pharaoh Ramses the First, and so they call up Egypt, and they're like, we have your guy, very respectfully. Um, I also give tours on campus, so this is where this is coming from. But um, instead of being like, well, finders keepers, we have him now. They were like, look, this is your pharaoh. I feel like you would want him back. Let us know how to get him back to you. And because that was just like, I mean, it's like the regular thing that people should do, but because it was so exceedingly kind, um, they like one repaired relations with Egypt, but also the Carlos Museum on campus now has a permanent mummy exhibit. So Egypt like always has mummies for us to have on display. So that's just it's very centering and like kind of jarring, but like peaceful as well. There's a part where you can like go upstairs and like look over and you just see like there's some of the like empty sarcophaguses, sarcophagi,
Mhm.
sarcophobuddies. And then we have a couple of like actual mummies as well. But something like that, just like walking around and getting to see all of these things that you're like, oh my God, this is so old, first off,
Mhm.
but like it's all so beautiful and so intricate. And so that's something that this year has just been very nice to like walk around. Um, and also, if I can add one more,
Go for it.
flower arrangements. Always forget how like it's just beautiful. Like if I put one together or I see like somebody else put one together or like TikTok now, everyone's like, go to Trader Joe's and make your own bouquet because it's so much easier. And like it is for sure,
Mhm.
building your own. Um, but I don't know. It's just beautiful. And that's another like you don't always think about it as like a medium of art. You know, people are like, oh my God, bouquets of flowers are so pretty. But thinking about it in this sense, like it's just gorgeous. And it's flowers. So it's like
Oh my gosh, I love all of your answers. I also love that you gave this like beautiful array of answers. Um,
the world is just so beautiful. So
yeah, no, that's literally like your whole vibe right now. It's like everything is so beautiful. And I love that. I think that's so like such a beautiful way to look at the world, and like the reason I think this conversation about art is so important is because really what it does is it makes us reflect on the ways that like art is in like a such a deep part of what it means to be a human. We
mhm.
make art with everything we do. We like can't help it. It's like who we are like creating. And I think that in a spiritual way, it's like it's like us as being united. Like if we are one with God, right? Like we are also creators. You know what I mean? Like we are creators. And so it's like that's what we do. We make things beautiful. We um embroider things. You know what I mean? Like we um make art and make music that we can like listen to. And I'm thinking about Renee Rapp ballads. I'm thinking about like there's that one, what is it, the snow one? The
No
one that's
Angel.
like Snow Angel, how like popular that one is. But like the reason it's so popular is because the lyrics in it are so relatable to so many people,
Mhm,
like their experience of um like the impacts that romantic relationships, and this can also be for platonic, but when those end, the impacts that they leave on you for the rest of your life and the ways that you look and engage with other people, right? It was art that we were all able to be like, oh, we're all having this experience. You know what I mean? We're all having this experience where like we can't help but look for our past loves in our future ones. And that's something we might always do, you know what I mean? Like because we impact each other. We leave those marks on each other,
mhm.
and yeah, like, yeah, I love your answer. I love that you gave many answers. I love that flower arrangements, like during, at the beginning of the year during Valentine's, that was like
Mm,
my Valentine's to everyone is I went and bought from Publix like a bunch of the like little just like a bunch of the like flowers that you can build your own arrangements. And I built like I don't know if you saw the dining room, but when I did that, the dining room was absolutely covered in like flower clippings. But I mean, my friends
Flower.
told me, and it was like really impactful for people. Everyone felt so loved by that. And art
Mhm,
is a way we can love each other. It's a way we can relate to each other. It's a way we can express ourselves. Like art isn't everything we do. Everything we do has to do with our creation of things to connect. And I think that's just so beautiful.
and you know what? You talked about being creators. What if we think about the fact that we are also art? I don't know. But no, like, so, okay, so genuinely, it like that is one of the concepts that I'm like, I mean, I guess again in awe, but like that's why I care so much about tattoos because like all of mine are like some sort of like commemoration of something. Um, and so even like I have sparkles across my stretch marks because it took forever to like just be okay with that and just like be okay
Mhm.
with it. And they're beautiful and it's phenomenal. And like the body just does so many wild things, like
Mhm.
wild. And so having something like just like appreciating what our bodies do. Or like
Mhm.
when you're like shaving and you get yourself in that same spot every time, like I just put a little like exclamation mark on it. Just like a little like oh like it's like that's such a human experience of like
Mhm.
dang, I got that one spot on my leg again.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's it's just a really like fun time to appreciate my body. And
Mm.
great that it's gotten like to that point of like I can just enjoy things.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean kind of like mixing the creator and the created there. But I feel like writing a paper now. Like let me just
Well, yeah, and it feels so full circle too when we were talking at the beginning about clothing too.
mhm.
What does
Mhm.
it mean for us to both look at the art we're creating and the art that's been created around us and also adorn ourselves because we also were created, you know?
Mhm.
Everything is an act of creativity and um that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
It is.
Well, Grace, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This was such a good conversation. I feel so alive and happy to have shared this time with you. Um, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll see you later.
And I'll
Hopefully.
see you later today.
Yay. Good. Yeah, thank you. It's always so fun to like I'm on things. So it's fun seeing like I'm like, oh, Sid had another cafe episode up. This is so cute. And now I get to be part of it.
You know, you're part of it. So thank you for that.
And I talk to you as my roommate all the time, but it's fun to be on like little platform, have a little like conversation like this. And it's just like these are beautiful questions that like bring out so much, right? Like on the surface level, it's like, what art have you been looking at recently? But then like so many places, this conversation went so many places. And it's just like, I'm glad we're having these conversations.
Yeah, me too. And I've been surprised each time where the conversation has gone. So I'm really grateful.
That's awesome. Yay. Okay.
Okay. Well, bye. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around for season 2, episode 3 of Studio Wesley Cafe. I know I left this conversation feeling so hopeful and having so much to think about, specifically what it means to both make art, engage with art, and consume art, but also to see ourselves as art, as a piece of creation. I'm going to be thinking about that a lot and how that would affect the way I move and live and see myself. So I'm so grateful to Grace. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week, we will have the 4th and final episode of season 2 Studio Wesley Cafe. It's a short season, a season just to get our summer kicked off. I hope you enjoy next week. And if you haven't listened to the last 2 episodes, definitely give them a listen. I think they're definitely worth it. Maybe I'm biased, but I think they're amazing. I think our interns are amazing. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in.